Ever feel like you're watching the same story again and again?
Yeah, like you've seen it before, even if you haven't.
Exactly. And we're going to crack that code today.
Oh, this should be good. A deep dive into...
The hero's journey.
Of course, it's everywhere, right?
Totally. From ancient myths to like the latest blockbuster.
It's like embedded in our cultural DNA or something.
Right. And we've got two awesome articles lined up.
Ooh. Okay. Lay it on me.
One breaks down the hero's journey, like step by step.
The how-to guide, I like it.
And the other one gets into like where it all came from.
The origin story, love it.
That's exactly. So by the end, you'll be spotting this pattern everywhere.
You might even find it in your own life, but, well, we'll get to that later.
Okay, so our first source, A Complete Guide to the Hero's Journey, or the monomyth, jumps right in with 12 stages. Yeah, 12. Almost like a recipe for a good story.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
It all starts with the ordinary world.
Makes sense. You gotta start somewhere.
It's all about establishing, like, the hero's normal life, before things get crazy.
Yeah, I gotta give them a baseline so we can appreciate the transformation, right?
Exactly. Like, imagine Luke Skywalker, still on Tatooine, totally clueless.
Right. Just another farm boy.
Without that contrast, the whole call to action wouldn't hit the same.
Speaking of, that's our next stop, the call to adventure.
Yeah.
This is where things get interesting.
Right. This is like the hero getting a knock on their door or, I don't know, a message in the mail.
Or a weird dude showing up with a lightsaber.
Yeah. Something that just throws their whole world upside down.
It's that moment where they're presented with a challenge, an opportunity, or something bigger than themselves.
But let's be real. Most of us wouldn't just dive headfirst into the unknown.
Right, exactly. That's where refusal of the call comes in. That relatable moment of, wait, hold on a minute.
Yeah, like fear, doubt, second guessing.
Makes them human, right. Makes their ultimate decision to go on the journey even more powerful.
Totally. But that's also where the mentor usually steps in, right?
Oh, absolutely. The meeting the mentor stage. This is where the hero gets guidance, wisdom.
We think Yoda, Dumbledore.
Exactly. Those wise figures who impart knowledge, tools, maybe even a bit of magic.
And not just practical stuff, right?
Yeah.
But also, like, belief in the hero's abilities.
Exactly. Giving them that confidence to actually face what's ahead.
So now they're armed and ready, which brings us to...
crossing the threshold. The point of no return.
This is where they're like, okay, I'm doing this thing.
They're stepping into a whole new world, leaving their old life behind. No turning back.
It's like a symbolic death and rebirth, almost.
Totally. And that's when the real fun begins. Tests, allies, and enemies. Here we come.
It's like being thrown into the deep end, right?
Yeah.
The hero has to learn the rules of this new world.
Figure out who to trust, how to fight.
And face some inner demons along the way, I'd imagine.
Oh, absolutely. It's not all external battles. Every challenge helps them grow, pushes them closer to their potential.
So it's like trials by fire, forging them into the hero they're meant to be.
Exactly. But before we hit the climax, there's this stage, approach to the inmost cave.
That sounds kind of ominous.
It's a metaphor, really. It's that moment where the hero's staring down the barrel of their biggest challenge yet.
Gathering their courage, facing their fears.
Yeah, and making a choice to push forward or turn back.
No pressure, right.
Exactly. And pushing forward leads them straight into the ordeal.
Okay, so this is the big one, isn't it?
This is it. The make or break moment. The hero confronts their greatest fear, experiences a kind of symbolic death.
Intense. But don't they usually come out stronger on the other side?
Most of the time. It's about transformation through hardship, facing those deep-seated fears and coming out changed.
We've all had moments like that, haven't we? Those defining moments that push us to our limits and make us who we are.
It's primal, right? It's why we're drawn to these stories. That overcoming adversity, the resilience of the human spirit.
And it makes the reward that much sweeter. Like, it just makes you appreciate that victory so much more.
Exactly. And that's where reward comes in. The hero gets to savor that victory, even for a bit.
They've earned it, right, after all that.
Absolutely. And it can be anything, like a tangible reward, a treasure or something.
Yeah, like the magical sword or something.
Right. But often it's more internal, like a new sense of self-awareness or inner strength.
So it's not just what they've gotten, but who they've become.
Exactly. But hold your horses. The journey's not over yet. We've still got the road back.
Okay, so what's that all about?
It's the hero's return to their ordinary world, but, well, they're not the same person anymore.
Right, they've changed, grown.
And they have to integrate those lessons into their old life, which isn't always easy.
So it's not just like happily ever after.
Rarely ever that simple. They might face doubts, resistance from those who fear change.
Oh, like those who didn't go on the journey with them.
Exactly. And it reminds us, that growth comes with a cost. Sometimes you can't just go back to how things were.
Wow, deep stuff. They're carrying the weight of everything they've experienced.
Precisely. And it can be a burden or a source of strength. It all depends.
Okay, so how does it all end?
Resurrection. The final test, the climax, the ultimate showdown.
This is what it's all been leading up to.
Exactly. They have to use everything they've learned to overcome this final obstacle.
So it's like the final exam for heroes.
Think of it that way, yeah. It proves they've truly transformed.
And then finally we reach return with the elixir.
The hero returns to their world forever changed, and they bring something back to share.
A gift for humanity, almost.
Right. A tangible reward, some wisdom, or just a deeper understanding of, well, everything.
Okay, but here's what I'm curious about. Our second source, the Hero's Journey Wikipedia article, it digs into, like, the history of this pattern.
Oh, yeah. This is where it gets really interesting.
It's not just a screenwriting thing, right? This goes way deeper.
Oh, absolutely. This pattern, this monomyth, it was Joseph Campbell who really put it on the map.
Joseph Campbell?
Yeah, a mythologist wrote, "The hero with 1,000 faces." He studied myths from everywhere.
Wow, so across cultures, across time periods.
Exactly. And he found this thread, this hero's journey running through all of them.
It's mind-blowing, right? Like it's hardwired into us somehow.
Yeah. That's the power of it, right? It speaks to something universal about the human experience.
Our need to grow, to find meaning, to connect with something bigger than ourselves.
Precisely. And the Wikipedia article, it also mentions some criticisms of the model, too.
Right, because no theory is perfect, right?
Exactly. Some argue that it's too male-focused, doesn't always represent female heroes or other groups fairly.
That's a good point. Like, it needs to evolve with the times.
Absolutely. And there have been different interpretations, that focus on those different experiences.
So it's not about, like, throwing out the whole thing, but more like expanding it, right?
Right, because it's a starting point, a framework for understanding stories, but it can always be adapted and challenged.
This is so cool. We're not just talking about stories anymore. We're talking about culture, psychology.
It's all connected, right? And that's what makes this stuff so fascinating.
I'm seeing the hero's journey everywhere now.
Yeah.
Movies, books, even commercials.
It's everywhere, right? It's a testament to its enduring power.
It makes you wonder why we're so drawn to these stories,
Yeah.
What is it about transformation and triumph that resonates so deeply?
Those are the big questions, right?
And maybe the answers lie in looking at our own lives.
Exactly. Because we're all on a journey of some kind, aren't we?
It's like we see those hero stories and we think, hey, maybe I could do that too.
Exactly. They give us a model, a sense of possibility,
Like a map for our own journeys.
Right? We see ourselves in those struggles, those moments of doubt.
And then they overcome it and we think, well, maybe I can too.
Precisely. It reminds us we all have that capacity for growth, for resilience.
It gives you hope, no matter how tough things get, there's always a way through.
Exactly. And it's not just about individual journeys either. The hero's journey also, it speaks to our need for purpose, for something bigger than ourselves.
Right. Like we're all part of something larger.
Those stories, they remind us of that our actions, even the small ones, they matter.
It makes me think of like social movements, cultural shifts, all those stories of courage and ultimately hope.
Exactly. Stories have this incredible power, don't they? They're not just entertainment.
They can inspire us, challenge us, connect us.
Absolutely. And that's what makes the hero's journey so, so powerful.
This deep dive has been amazing.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We went from breaking down the stages to like the cultural and psychological stuff.
And we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore,
I know. It's like opening a door to a whole new way of seeing the world.
Exactly. And the real adventure, it starts when we start seeing the hero's journey, not just in stories, but in our own lives.
Oh, I like that.
Think about your own experiences. Can you spot those stages, the challenges, the mentors, the rewards?
What treasures have you brought back from your own journeys?
Keep those questions in mind. You might surprise yourself.
I love that. This has been incredible.
It's been a pleasure diving in with you.
Thanks for joining us. Until next time, keep exploring and keep those stories coming.